Hi, my name's Chris. I'm here with Megan and Dave. Dave's the CEO and one of the founders of Changes. So we're going to find out a little bit more about Dave, his story with Changes, a few personal questions about how he's coped with lockdown. If you want to find out a little bit more detail about the setting up of Changes and the whole recovery was set up, you can go to mixcloud.com and search for Changes Recovery Radio, and there's a big detailed interview there with Dave. We'll hopefully at some point in the near future get those interviews on YouTube as well, so we're all in one place. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Meg, who's got some questions.
So, first, we're going to ask Dave the big question: what do you do at the minute within Changes? Obviously, we know you're the CEO, but what does your job entail at the minute?
Okay, I'm part of the management team. I'm involved in the day-to-day running of the organisation, working with other staff to make sure that we're able to provide services, we're able to manage the organisation in terms of financially and meeting all the legal obligations of being a charity and a company. I'm also involved in some of the business planning, quite a bit of the business planning with the man who's also on the screen, Mr. Kinsella, to make sure that we've got money coming in, make sure we've got contracts that enable us to fulfil the aims and obs of the charity and reach as many people as we can with our services. I'm also involved in quite a bit of creative stuff in terms of PR, designing leaflets and websites and stuff like that I quite enjoy. So I've got as with most medium-sized charitable organisations, there's quite a lot to my role, which I think is great. Yeah. Should I say that again with more enthusiasm? Which I think is great.
So, if it has, how has your job changed since lockdown? How's the service changed? Maybe not to depth, but what's changed?
Well, the obvious thing is, and I think one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing today is we've all got a lot more familiar with Zoom. So most of the changes, most of the peer support, in fact, all at the moment are online. We're using Zoom to provide virtual peer support groups and psycho-ed programs. We've also done a lot of social activities that you've been involved in and Chris has been involved in. So with us not being able to meet, a lot of what we do is based on a group approach. We've obviously had to go online, and that's been quite successful, to be honest. In terms of the way my job has changed, I've often had to bury myself away and sort of work on new services and funding applications and, report writing. So for me, it hasn't been too much of a massive change. I've worked from home because I can get more done. So it's just a little bit more emphasis on the home working for me, it's been less challenging than it would have been if I was solely based in the office. But it's changed, but not as much as you might think.
Yeah. Thank you. And obviously, if we want to know more about kind of why Changes was founded and stuff, we can listen to that on Recovery Radio.
Yeah.
Just a little point, what do you think is special about Changes as a mental health service as opposed to anywhere else?
I think there's one or two key points. That's a good question, Meg. Well done. That's a very good question. I think it's about a recovery community. I think in Changes, there isn't an us and them. It's an us. We're based on a 12-step program. We're based on a fellowship, if you like, a recovery fellowship where we join together and we promote each other's recovery. So I think that's quite a unique feature. Another unique feature is that with the peer support groups, you can sort of jump in and out. It isn't that you have to refer yourself. If you're doing okay, you just get on with it. And if there's times when it gets a bit tough, you can jump back in. So I think that makes us quite different. As a 12-step organisation and that sort of embraces Step 12, which is to pass it on. A lot of people volunteer as part of the recovery, so we've got a large volunteer workforce. They're very passionate about passing on the information and support that's helped them to get well and stay well. And that sort of goes right through to the paid staff. 85% of the paid staff are former service users and former volunteers. So we've got a real passion as an organisation, and there's a real emotional investment in what we do. And I think that, you know, is a massive part of our success.
I think so too. So moving towards kind of a bit more personal stuff about you. So moving away from
steady on, Meg, steady on.
And to you. So how have you coped with lockdown? What have you done to manage your own mental health during lockdown?
Well, I've been like everyone else. You know, there's times when it's been tough, if I'm honest. I mean, one of the reasons I don't do social media and stuff like that, there's two reasons. I can upset enough people in the real world. And the other one is I don't like to sort of put a highlight reel out there, you know, I'm dead good, my life's dead good, because it's like everyone's life, you know, it's about ups and downs, and it's been the same in recovery. There's been times when I felt quite sort of isolated from the things that keep me well, you know, whether it's just going out for coffee. I think Kerry and myself, my wife, probably spent £1,000 in fuel driving to places where we could get a takeaway coffee early on when everything was locked down, you know, just to give some kind of normality to the situation. So we're lucky, you know, we're lucky that we live somewhere nice, and we're lucky that we're used to getting into some kind of routine. So for me, it was adjusting the routine, but making sure that there was a routine, so that we got up at the same time, we got on with the work, we did things to socialise, we eat out more than is healthy or financially sensible. So that was strange when there was no takeaways and no places to go for breakfast. So we started to cook a little bit more. I think what we've discovered during the lockdown, that the highlight meal has been halloumi burgers, which are delicious. You know, little brioche bun, little bit of salad, a few French fries with them, a little bit of chili sauce and mayo.
Oh, you make me hungry.
Seriously nice stuff. So we've had that quite a bit. So we started, you know, we did things like on a Friday we generally went out for breakfast. So what we did on Friday, we had a break from the porridgey breakfast, and we did some poached eggs and stuff like that. So we tried to put things in the week that we could look forward to, so it didn't become, you know, one day didn't kind of merge it into another. Bit of sarcasm here. My wife is, I think on a gravestone she's going to have "Here lies Kerry." She always had something on the go. So she's a big fan of DIY projects. So we've kept ourselves busy with that. And if I'm honest, I think that has really helped, you know, to sort of have things to sort of keep yourself busy when you haven't been able to go out and do stuff, to actually have something to get up for and know that you've got like 3 hours of something to keep you occupied, and at the end of it you made some kind of progress. So she's kind of got that nailed down, Kerry has, but you must never show this to her, Meg. Never. But you know, that's really helped as well. A big thing for me as well was going out on my bike with my son. We went along the canal. The canal's just down the road. So we were very sensible, you know, made sure we were socially distanced, and we stayed within the government guidelines, you know, as they went on. But that was great because we were able to get out, you know, connect with nature. We had some great conversations. My son's 14 now, you know, he's turning into a young man. So we took that as an opportunity to have some father and son time. So that's been useful as well, you know. But as I've said, there's been times when it's been tough, you know, when I've felt my mood my mood's been quite low, and I felt quite anxious and stuff. And I'm sure that's not unique to me. So some of the things I've mentioned are the things that have helped me to kind of cope with that, as well as everything else. And so for me, it's routine. Exercise has been a biggie for me. I'd like to say I've got a fantastic lockdown physique, but unfortunately, I'd like to say it, but it's not true. But it's helped me to sort of keep myself mentally on track. I've always felt that if I've been out on my bike or I've done a few weights, I always feel better afterwards. I find that I can relax more. So I've kind of done that. I've been doing that for a few years because that's been a wellness tool for me. And one of the reasons I'm so old and bald, I think, is because I've looked after myself. So yeah, that's helped. That's helped a lot.
Good. So a little extension to that question, and you might not have an answer. Have you learned anything during lockdown? Maybe something kind of a skill, or have you learned anything about yourself?
I wouldn't have to live with myself. I think Kerry's got a big heart. That's one thing. The selection of songs I play on my guitar are intensely depressing. Hurt, knocking on heaven's door, stuff like that. So I do need to get some light-hearted stuff in my repertoire. For me, joking apart, over the years, I've had to I think if you're in Changes and you do a personal evaluation, I think you get to know yourself quite well anyway. So I don't think there's been any massive surprises. I think recovery is about trying to become the best version of yourself. Unfortunately, we are programmed to forget, so it's easy to drift. So I suppose it's helped me to get back on track with one or two things where I'd drifted. Without sounding boring, hopefully, my faith's important to me. So I've kind of reconnected with that while I've been off. It's always been there. And, it's kind of like a weird belief system, but it's, I've kind of reconnected with that a little bit more. That gives a lot of sense of purpose to my life, and as a real motivator. So it's kind of made me take stock and sort of reinforce the areas that I already had, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Lovely.
I didn't realise it was going to be this serious. I didn't realise it.
We're going to go on to some more light-hearted ones now. Okay.
Ask me the Santa question, and it's not because I look like Santa at the moment, I hope.
It is not because you look like Santa at the moment, but how old were you when you realised Santa wasn't real?
What? He's not real? What do you mean he's not real? I was a bit like George, my son. I went along with it a little bit for my mum and dad because I saw how excited they were. So I think George was around about 8 or something like that, and I was around about the same age. I remember something. Well, I must have only been about 4, and there's a friend of mine, and they asked us to look outside for Santa's sledge to see if he'd landed on the roof. And at the age of 4, I remember thinking, "Oh, the roof's like that. How Santa got his sledge on there?" So that was sowed the seeds of doubt, really. So around about 7 or 8, I was playing along, oh yeah, Santa's come down the chimney and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, around about that age.
That's amazing that you can remember. Not because.
Well, because I'm that old, Meg. What are you trying to say?
But I can't remember. I wouldn't have a clue how to answer that question. How would you answer that question, Chris?
For me, I think I probably believed in it a bit longer than what I really should have done. But
27, Chris.
Not quite, no. But I said the answer that didn't make my interview, as there's still a part of me that likes to think it exists. I like the magic and the idea behind it, and just what the whole idea of Santa represents. And I mentioned as well the idea of the Tibetan tulpa. If enough people believe in something, then it possibly gives form to that idea. So if you go down that route, maybe on some level, it does exist.
It's true. So you could say Santa stops existing when you stop believing in him.
Yeah.
Ah, interesting. It's great. I mean, it was great for me when you know my daughter was little and George was little, to get caught up as an adult in that magic. You know, so that kind of reinforces what Chrissy said. In a way, you know, he does become real. Yeah, so it's great. I like the whole idea of it, and it's a little bit sad that George is, you know, only played along for 2 years for his mum and dad's sake. You know, so yeah.
George, spoiling the fun.
What a guy. What a guy.
What a guy. Okay, so are you watching any box sets or series at the minute that are really good? Well,
you've only got to look at my dishevelled appearance at the moment to realise that's got to be Vikings.
Is it good?
It's very good, yeah. A bit violent and a bit, you know, adult, but it's very good. I started off, I watch, I dip into Ricky Gervais's podcast, and somebody asked him that question, and he mentioned the Last Kingdom, and I thought, oh, you know, let's have a go at that. And we got into it, and it was really, really good. The stories were fantastic. So when that ended, we thought, right, we need to carry on with the old Viking theme. So we went to Amazon and you know, Vikings on there. So I've been watching that, and it's been really good, really enjoyable. So far, I think there's 79 episodes of it. We're getting close to the end.
Wow.
I think we're going to start season 6 fairly soon. And it's interesting, you know. There's a lot of poetic license. The women are you know, a lot more made up than they would have been in those times, and you know, people get shot with crossbows, and then they're sort of, you know, running round about 2 days later and stuff like that. But it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable stuff. So we're actually naming the Schnauzer pups after some of the characters. So one's going to be Thor. One's going to be Ragnar, and my favourite is Floki, the shipbuilder. So we're going to have a little boy puppy called Floki, because they've got the beards and everything. Yeah, we're expecting Meg. Yeah,
Maisie or Daisy?
It's Maisie.
Is it?
Yeah, mate. She's had the scan, so there's something happening. So yeah, in about 4 weeks' time. So.
Oh my gosh, we need pictures. Let's have some pictures.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So yeah, I've enjoyed that. I mean, again, that's part of that routine. We generally sit down around about 8, half 8. You know, we finish work 5ish, and then do all the other stuff that we do, and then sit down, settle down to it, and watch that. You know, we still go to bed reasonable time. That's about being boring, really, more than anything else. But you know, it's about that routine. But it's good to get something that you're looking forward to, as you know, as part of your day. That's what we found. Even, you know, just going back to the routine thing. A friend of mine, who shall remain nameless, we've been doing his shopping throughout lockdown, because he's been told he's got a shield, and he's still got to shield. And we look forward to that. We look forward to going out on a, you know, we got up early. We used to get up early on a Wednesday morning. Now it's a Wednesday evening, but we like going out for a little bit of a drive. It's something different. We have, you know, we can have a little bit of a rattle. So yeah, routine's good from that point of view.
You mentioned podcasts. What's the best podcast you've ever listened to?
That's a good question again, Meg. I used to listen to a lot of Buddhist podcasts from a Buddhist centre in America. I used to listen to them when I was walking into work, when I used to live on Bagnall Road, when I used to walk up to Hanley. And there was some really interesting discussions about, you know, the Buddhist philosophy and what have you. So I quite enjoyed that. Entertainment value, Ricky Gervais,
Oh,
without
he's
a doubt.
brilliant, isn't he?
You know, it just seems a natural guy. You know, he just seems as though he's not trying too hard, and that's good. I think one of the most inspirational things I've seen. It wasn't a podcast. It was on YouTube, and I've seen it a few times. Denzel Washington giving some inspirational talks, and the guy is totally sussed. He's totally got it. You know, just amazing, really, absolutely amazing philosophy and motivational speech. They give some excerpts of addresses he's made at various graduation ceremonies that he's been invited to over the years. Amazing, amazing, cool guy. Should be the next president of the USA, really. The fact he's not running probably limits his chances, but definitely a future president there.
Yeah, no, he is brilliant. It's so important, isn't it? Kind of what I always say that to the young people. The material you're consuming is so important.
It is. It's very, very much so. I think so. You know, and you need a mixture, don't you? It's a bit like food, and sometimes you want something that's, you know, fulfills you and sort of feeds your mind, and then other times it's like fire watching. You just want something that you know is nice and easy and sort of takes your mind on a journey rather than having to put too much effort into it. So I definitely agree with that.
So what is your all-time, and this is a really hard question again, all-time favourite film?
Well, that's like choosing one of your favourite kids, isn't it, Meg? That is, if I'm honest
with you.
I mean, I could narrow it down. I'm going to say anything that Clint Eastwood's been in or directed. And my two favourite films are Blade Runner, the original one, with the like Marlowe type narration from Harrison Ford. That is a brilliant film, which kind of uses sci-fi to explore the human condition. And a light-hearted one is Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. For me, like basically the Blade Runner one is about androids called replicants who've only got a 4-year lifespan, and their quest to continue the life. You know, they developed emotions and they've fallen in love, and they feel that life is. They realise how precious life is, so they've gone from being a machine to an actual sentient, you know, being. And I think that's interesting, as I say, how it explores the human condition. So I found that particularly, I sort of identified with that. I thought that was really good. Groundhog Day is about personal evaluation. It's about goals. You know, I mentioned Denzel. He says, you know, without goals, dreams are just dreams. And you know, Groundhog Day shows you the guy who's stuck in the same day. He's a bit of a. I've got to be mindful of what I say. He's a bit of a not a nice person, is the most polite way of putting it, when he starts out, and he's stuck in this day. And as he interacts with the people in this small town, he gradually starts to change. He sets himself goals. He learns new skills. And for me, you know, you don't need to be stuck in the same day to learn, you know, how to be a better person, a better version of yourself. So watching that film kind of coincided with the early days of changes and personal evaluation. I think it was made in 93 and we set up in 88. So that kind of fed into that personal evaluation thing about setting goals, you know, and becoming the best version you can of yourself. I mean, I'll give you an example from my point of view. And I do sound like an old guy who's desperate to stay young, mentioning weights and martial arts. And, you know, so hopefully I won't be lampooned for it. But my mum always wanted me to study the martial arts. And when I was looking at sort of reinventing myself, when I found myself in not too good a place, I decided to start taking like lessons, and I was in my late 20s, you know, and I remember being in beginners classes with kids who were there with the mum and dad, you know, having a grading. I'm 6'2", and got this little 7-year-old there doing the same kata as me. And within about 2 or 3 years, I got me black belt and became an instructor, and everybody kind of associated that with me, that I was this karate guy, you know. But in reality, I wasn't really, because I started very, very late. So that was like one of the things that was like part of me becoming somebody else, you know, a better version of myself. And you know, that came in part from the Groundhog Day film.
Well, that was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Well, there you go. You see, there you go, Meg. What can I say? I'm a very interested person.
You are. We've mentioned Maisie and Daisy, so I'm going to ask you the question anyway. Do you have any pets?
Well, we've got 2 little schnauzers. We've got Maisie and Daisy, and we've got 2 cats, Lucy and Izzy. I like both. I grew up with dogs because my dad was interested in nature and rabbiting and all that kind of stuff. So we always had like working dogs. Excuse me. Cats were the enemy when I was growing up because my dad kept birds. So when he found one of his canaries, just its feet left because a cat had sort of got through the bars, they weren't very welcome in our garden. But as after I left home, particularly when I met Kerry, she got cats, so I sort of grew to see them in a different way and respect, and get a respect for them, you know, and a love for them, really. So Izzy and Lucy are fantastic. They kind of keep themselves to themselves, you know. Those kind of cats come round every now and again for a little tiny bit of a fuss and then run off. So that's what we've got, really. We have the occasional mouse that comes into the house.
Not by choice.
By virtue of the cats, and I've often had to go across the road where the field is and try and, you know, hope this mouse comes round a little bit when I set it free. So but they're like temporary pets that we have.
Little temporary pets. Have you got any hobbies? We've mentioned a lot of things that you do, but have you got any other hobbies that you haven't mentioned?
Not really. I don't think I have now. Hobbies as such. Like I say, I like to try and keep myself reasonably fit. So I discovered weights as part of my recovery years and years ago. So I've sort of kept on with them. I like cycling. You know, things like that. I like music. Music's a big part of my life. I like older kind of classic rocky kind of stuff, but I also like all, you know, the new stuff. I like Billie Eilish's stuff. He says to be contemporary. I think she's a genius. I like Sam Fender. I think he sort of broke last year. Again, I think he's incredible. So, you know, I like anything that makes a connection with me, really. Any kind of music, but that's
you
like a big part.
Harry Styles as well, don't you?
I like a bit of Harry Styles. I think his last album was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Good, wasn't it?
Unpredictable, you know. Every track was good. You know, so it was a bit of a masterpiece. I think his last album was. I like to play music very, very badly, as though I've got boxing gloves on when I play the guitar. But I once heard Sting say that music brings its own reward, which I've taken that it doesn't matter how bad you are, if you get something out of it, go for it. So, you know, I play with me mate who's very good on the guitar. Comes over every now and again and, you know, shows me a few chords and stuff like that. So that's it, you know. Like cooking, quite a big fan of cooking. Basically, late middle age. You could just put me in that category, really.
What's your favourite thing to cook?
I like pasta. I do like pasta. You know, it's made out of the same stuff, but, you know, you put it in a different shape and add a few different things to it, and it's totally different. So I do like pasta, like chili, I also like Mexican food. I think that's really interesting and interesting stuff. I like eating curries. I'm a little bit too hit and miss when I'm making them. But yeah, you know, you spend hours and hours and it's pretty average, and you say, oh God, what's all that about?
Curries are really easy.
Not for me, they're not, Meg. Not for me. Just let me blow this creature off my screen in case it. There we go.
So you're going to ask that question about the music-related question?
I was going to, yeah.
Go on then.
Tell us a bit about this band that you were in at school. You mentioned.
Oh, the band. Yeah, we were tragically when we were at school when I was 15. We were all into like Thin Lizzy and Bad Company and stuff like that. And I actually had hair then, which is hard to believe. And we went up to my mate's house in Western Coyney, and he was playing with this guy who got a drum kit in his garage across the road. So I went over, and he got a mic, and I sang a couple of songs, like sang a Bad Company song and a Thin Lizzy song, and it sounded reasonably good. So we just set up a band. We got the upper hall at Wellfield High School, and we used to practice there on a Thursday night. So we did quite a few things, but to be honest, I was too shy to ever think about gigging. I just did it because just something I enjoyed doing. And then we went to the sixth form college, and that was it really. We kind of split up. So that was my tragic music career. I was offered a slot in a pub band in the 80s called Chisel, a heavy metal band called Chisel. How cool is that? But again, I was too shy. I didn't. For me, the anxiety of performing would have been too much for me. Would have spoilt it really. And the funny thing was, I used to like leave the pub if there was karaoke and somebody put my name down, because I really didn't. It's just not my thing, to be honest with you. And then we had a karaoke to Changes do a few years ago, and then as soon as I came in, somebody put the mic in my hand, and I was up. I got no option, you know. I was like the project manager at the time, and I would have been really frowned on by everybody if I hadn't to sang something. So I just belted something out, and then that was it. I wasn't bothered. I kind of overcome my fear of like singing in public. And don't get me wrong, I won't be going on the X Factor. I'm not a great singer, but I can. If it's in the right key, I can generally kind of hold the tune down. So
you knew we had so many singers in Changes. We discovered
what a guy!
I loved his karaoke as well. I feel like this is something that needs to happen.
It's a karaoke night in the forming.
I did also say I can't sing, so it's very.
Yeah, he did put that proviso in, Chris. I remember. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to sound good, do you?
That's the point, isn't it? Really, anybody having a go, isn't it? It's all part of the fun, isn't it? Really.
I love it. I'm Beyonce in the shower. I get out.
Yeah. I'm great. Yeah, I'm great in the shower. It's just when I try and hold it down, and if it's in the wrong key, I've got no chance. Absolutely no chance whatsoever. It's just painful. So.
Can I just to I'm going in the realm of embarrassments. You had an eventful bike ride a few weeks ago. Would you care to talk about that?
Yeah, that was. Thanks for mentioning that, Chris. I went out with my son along the Calden Canal between Cheddleton and Consell, because we live just up from Frog Hall, which is a bit further along. So we went out. We went on along to. The Holly Bush, which is, I'm going to say Longston. I think it is in Longston. So on the way back, bearing in mind people haven't really been out this summer, the canal towpath was really overgrown, mainly with nettles, as I found out. And between Cheddleton and Consell, the footpath is very, very uneven. It's quite dangerous, really. So we sped in along, and the footpath went on two levels, and George was on the top level, and his back wheel sort of slipped and went on the bottom one, so he came off. So I threw myself off so I wouldn't, run over him. And I said, "Okay, I'm fine, Dad." Yeah. So he got on. I said, "Well, just be careful." That was my last words to him as he sped off. I got on. I was on the upper part of the path. Got on my bike, forgetting I was in quite a stiff gear, for want of a better term. Just got to the top of it, realised I couldn't move my bike forward, and fell towards the canal. So I put my foot down, and the path was about a foot lower on the side where my foot was. So I just flipped over and just went straight in the canal. George just went on, didn't know I was there. So I'm like laying in the canal with my bike on top of me. And the first thing I could think about was my phone. Is my phone going to work? And then I thought, oh, it's water resistant. I should be okay. So I'm waiting for George to pull me out. Obviously, he didn't even know where I was. So I had to grab hold of lots and lots of nettles to pull myself out and grab hold of my bike. Otherwise, I would have lost my bike. And that was it. And so I got on my bike, and George realised I wasn't behind him and came back. And his first words were, "You idiot," said to me. So that was it. Yeah, that was it. So yeah, you've got to be careful going along. That being said, I've gone hundreds and hundreds of miles along canals, and never had any accidents. So
Was it deep?
I was off on a ledge. There was like a little ledge, and part of me was dangling into where it was quite deep. They're not very deep, canals aren't. They're like lined with mud. So I might have even been able to stand up if I'd have gone in the deep bit. But there's lots of mud there. It's quite a dangerous thing. So I made sure I didn't find out. I didn't put it to the test.
Did you hurt yourself?
No, not even slightly. I'd got loads of nettle stings. I could have had an operation. It was like having a local anaesthetic. So Kerry was sympathetic when I got in and off. She collapsed laughing. That was it. She couldn't speak for laughter. Obviously, I was soaking wet as well, which didn't help. And I'd got like the embarrassment. I'd got like the squidgy seat as well, because the seat on my bike was all soaked. So every time I sort of pedaled, it was going like that. But sort of like, just to humiliate me more as I was going along.
Terrifying.
Yeah, so that was it really.
That's a golden story. Right,
Yeah.
Shall we have one final question from me?
Okay.
If there are people or a person watching this now who is really, really struggling with their mental health, what advice would you give them?
I would advise them to certainly seek help, whether it's from us or whether it's from the GP or whether it's from another mental health service provider. It's very, very common. Mental distress is very, very common, particularly at this time. We are living in unusual times where there's unusual stresses that are being put on people. People might be losing the jobs. They might be fearful of losing the jobs. Money worries, and having the responsibility of a family. They can, it can make you, you can become overwhelmed, and it's a very subjective experience. And it's important just to be able to talk to people, So if you don't want to access services necessarily, make sure you talk to one of your friends, just to be able to get some objectivity to the situation you find yourself in. As regards changes, we've got Changes Here For You website. If you put that into Google, you'll get to one of our sites, one of our services that way. You're part of it, Meg. You're part of the Stay Well CYP service. We've got a range of services for adults, children, young people. It's a tough time. It's a tough time when you're separated from your friends. Those formative years, when you want to be knocking about with people and connecting and having fun. And for people who've been stuck in the bedroom screaming at the Xbox for the past 3 months, it's a tricky time. And obviously there's the pressures of a return to school in September. So if a child or a young person stumbles across this and thinks, God, who's that strange guy rambling on, we've got the stay well services, you know, where we can put you in touch with other young people who are going through the same thing. We can give you some good advice. We can give you some support. So, you know, seek help, whether it's from your friends, whether it's from services. You know, don't just suffer in silence. You know, most things can be sorted out. They really can. You know, as serious and overwhelming as they can seem at the time, and when you're caught up in it, most problems are solvable.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for this. I think it'll be interesting to see how it sort of comes out. But it's great, you know. I am very keen for people to get an awareness of you know, Changes community, the people that make it up, you know, the staff, the volunteers, and the service users. You know, I'm very proud to be part of Changes. I'm very proud of what we've achieved so far. I'm particularly proud of how we've responded to the lockdown situation, how we've been there for people. You know, so the more people that know about us, the better, really.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
See you later.